And we welcome you to the October edition of Eye on the Storm. I'm Randy Payton, the Sports Information Director here at the University of Rio Grande, joined by Athletic Director Jeff Lanham. It's always busy for us. That's how we always start out each of these shows. But you get in now to the time where your fall sports are starting to overlap with the start of our winter sports, and something going on seemingly on a daily basis.
Well, we say that every time we meet, Randy, but it is, and it's kind of a fun time of the year because we're kicking off the winter sports, kicking off basketball, and like you said, finishing up. We've got conference tournaments coming up for men's and women's cross country, conference tournaments for men's and women's soccer. Yet to be determined where those will be played. I mean, I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but it's a fun time of the year.
And we will get into what is going on with the fall sports here on campus shortly, but we want to start our show today. We are joined by head women's basketball coach David Smalley, his team getting ready to tip off a new season. The preseason poll coming out in the River States Conference just a couple of days ago. You're tied for 5th overall, I think, in that poll. But I know as a coach, when you get to the point where a new season gets underway, you've got that itch to get going, and I guess pretty soon you get an opportunity to scratch that itch.
Well, you're right, Randy. Tonight's going to be our 43rd practice, and then for anybody that's been around the game, that's a long time for coaches and one team to be looking at each other. We're excited to have a scrimmage coming up on this Friday at Wilmington. Then we go to Concord on the 31st, and then we open up November the 4th at home. But we got a great group of young ladies. We have 24 players total in the program, and then you add about 4 more support staff, and these are all students. And then you know, we're excited, we're anxious, and we want to get this thing started.
David, you've got a kind of unique situation. I believe that's correct, with one senior this year, and her situation in itself is kind of unique. Can you explain what we've got going on? Well,
our lone senior is Alexis Payne from Deepwater, West Virginia. I love saying Deepwater, West Virginia. Right. She's a 5th-year senior. She blew her knee out and sat out 2 years ago, and then came back and played her 3rd season last year, and now she's a graduate assistant in the NAIA. If you have a year of eligibility and if you've completed your undergraduate degree, then you can work on your master's degree, and that's what Alexis is doing. And we're excited for Alexis. We're looking for her to have a great year coming off of that injury. She has scored over 1,000 points. Of course, she has one more season to go, and you know, we're going to rely on her quite a bit to give us a lot of power and punch. She's a great perimeter player. She can shoot the 3, she can drive it, and then she can post up. She's about 5'11", 6 foot, and just does a great job. So we're excited. She's going to anchor our team. And then we have 5 freshmen, and then we have some juniors and sophomores. I think we got a good, talented team. We just kind of mixing everything together and trying to find our own identity right now.
You know, one of those juniors that you talked about, Jada Carter, made her way onto the preseason all-conference team, and I think we've got a photo of her in action from last year, and a young lady that you're going to rely, there she is, against Salem International last year, and a young lady that you're going to rely heavily on this year.
Jada's one of the most hard-nosed kids I've ever seen. If she could put on a pair of shoulder pads and a football helmet, she would do somebody some damage on the football field. Just a good kid, a hard-nosed kid, hard to guard. She's strong. She can get it to the glass. She's also kind of improved her perimeter attack, can shoot the 3, but her forte is getting it to the glass. She's hard to stop. I like to compare her with IU East Tia King. I think they're just a tremendous matchup with each other, and you know, we're going to look for a lot of leadership out of Jada Carter at the 2-guard spot.
You won 19 games last year, and quite a few players back from that team, and I think we've also got to look at the preseason poll as the coaches voted, and there you see it. Rio Grande tied for 5th with West Virginia Tech. Is that kind of where you figured you might be when the poll was going to come out?
Well, actually, I'm okay with where we are. It doesn't make a lot of sense where we end up tied for 5th and Sometimes you just wonder what these coaches are thinking, but I'm okay with where we are. You know, it doesn't matter where you start out; it's where you're going to end up, and
right.
I don't think it has anything to do with any mind games with our players. As a matter of fact, I don't even think it's even been a topic of discussion. We know that the league is strong. I mean, IU East and IU Kokomo, they are putting a lot of resources into their programs, and you can see it in other sports as well. Midway, who was kind of came out of the dark here in the last year or so with the new coach down there, John Kemp, who's just done a great job of getting that program going. And then you have the regulars. I mean, Point Park, and if you look on that list, I mean, Point Park is way down the line. Let me tell you something. Point Park is, they're in Pittsburgh, and you know they always have transfer students, and they're going to. This is going to be a tough league on both sides of the East and the West. So, you know, teams are already playing. As a matter of fact, we're getting ready to go scout some teams, and teams are playing in October, which just kind of blows me away. But, you know, I think it's going to be a very, very solid league. I think we set standards last year with IU East winning a first-round game, which I believe may have been the first national tournament win that the River States has had. Kokomo was out there, and IU East was picked, I think, 13th in preseason top 25 poll, and IU
right.
Kokomo is getting some votes. So I'm excited where the league is. I think every team in this league has upped their schedule, and I think that's given us a lot of PowerPoints and has given our league a little bit of respect.
David, you've got. Of course, we'll start league play now before Christmas, and prior to that, you've got some. What are your non-league teams' schedules like? I know you play down at Union, who've been very strong in the past, but you've got some other. You're playing also down in Kingsport this year as well in the tournament down there.
I've been fishing around trying to find out who did the scheduling for the University of Rio Grande women's basketball for the 2017-18 season. When I get a hold of that person, we're going to have a talk. We have University of Northwestern Ohio, which has always been a good competitive team, a new coach, and he's got some transfers coming in, and we open up with them on November the 4th at 1:30 at home. Then we have Madonna University, which in the past has been
same league. They're in the same league.
In the past has been a very powerful team. Has not been ranked in the last couple of years, but they have a great program. And then, as you mentioned, Jeff, we go to Union and play Bryan College out of Tennessee and Union College out of Kentucky, and both those teams have had history of being in the top 25. They're not there this year. And then we have our own Bevo Francis tournament with Bluefield State and Wilberforce, and Wilberforce is a completely new program with a new coach. I think maybe one old player from Wilberforce, and they have a brand new team with some JUCO kids. And then the show, as you mentioned, Kingsport. Right. Coach French has done a tremendous job with that venue down there, and that tournament just keeps growing and growing. And we have women's teams that's down there. We're playing Washington Adventist out of D.C., and then stepping out of the NAI Division II level to the NAI Division I, Georgetown. So we're looking forward to that. It's going to be a great pre-conference tune-up for us. I mean, we have to be ready to go. We have a couple of teams possibly that we may be okay with to get ourselves right. We have Wright State Lake, and then we have OU Lancaster. But with those other 8 preseason conference teams, we're going to be challenged.
Throwing those freshmen in pretty quickly.
They're going to get thrown into the fire real quick. And then, as you mentioned, as Randy mentioned, we open up River State's conference November the 29th, which personally I don't like playing conference games in November, December, but due to the depth and the length, the number of teams in our league, you have to do that. So, and we always open up with Point Park, and that's on the road. So, we have our plate full.
I guess before we let you go, you've not played a scrimmage yet or a regular season game. You won 19 games last season, and I know in a way you were disappointed, despite the fact you had a winning record and nearly pulled off a 20-win season. At practice thus far, are the kids living up to the expectation that you're looking forward to heading into the season opener? Oh,
without a doubt. I think they are, and we have such a great nucleus. We have our junior varsity team has been a very pleasant and experience right now. We have Coach Brooke Markham, who was a player last year, is student teaching now, but she'll start her master's program in the spring. Is taking the junior varsity program, and we have a good schedule there. And we have 11 players that's focused on the junior varsity, and then we have 13 players on the varsity. And the kids are hungry, and I think that's important. And we got players coming back on the varsity. Sydney Holden, I think, is just going to open the eyes of our opponents. She's long. She can play on the perimeter. She can post. She can shoot the three.
Best thing is she becomes a sophomore.
Well, a lot of times being a sophomore does a lot of great things. Cameron Conway, who's been suffering a little bit with shin splints, she should get back in rotation here pretty soon. Jasmine Smith, who came off the bench her freshman year and started a lot last year, is an undersized post, but she is tenacious on the inside. Chelsea Sloan, a great three-point shooter. We talked about Alexis Payne. Abby Wendell from Jay County, Indiana, just does a great job at the point guard spot. And what we have this year, we have some freshmen that I think can give her a little bit of relief at the point guard spot, in China Chambers and Nia McCormick. And we have Jimmy Howe as a freshman, Michaela Litke, good shooter as a freshman. Jimmy's going to be a good inside player for us. And then Beth Blanton, a local young lady from Oak Hill, can just shoot the eyes out of it. So I hope I didn't leave anybody out on that varsity roster, but we got some good kids, some depth, and if we don't let coaching get in the way, we should be okay.
Well, we look forward to it getting started on the 4th of November right here at the Knute Oliver Arena. It'll be Northwestern Ohio, the Racers, in to take on Coach Smalley's club. 1:30 will be the tip-off on November the 4th. We appreciate Coach Smalley joining us. We're going to step aside and take a break. This is Eye on the Storm.
Are you staying around?
And we welcome you back to the October edition of Eye on the Storm. Randy Payton, Jeff Lanham back with you, and we had a chance to talk women's basketball with head coach David Smalley. Jeff, men's basketball, their season starting right around the corner, and a lot expected out of Coach French's club. I think they were picked number 4 in the River States Conference preseason poll, and I think we've got to look at that poll as well, if we can post that. Yep, there it is, behind West Virginia Tech and IU Southeast, and of course IU East at the top of the list. Good news is Rio's 4 out of 13. Bad news is out of those top 4, 3 of them are in the same division.
Same division, and that makes this division is very strong, and they've shown that the last few years as well. I think with Coach French, as we were talking about with Coach Smalley, he played a lot of freshmen last year, and so making those freshmen into sophomores is such a big step. You've been to these places before. You know what it's like to go play at East. You know what it's like to go play at Southeast, and you understand that. And then we've got a couple red shirts who now are becoming eligible, or from being hurt that traveled, didn't play, but they're a year older, and I think they're going to make some waves, I think.
And there's a guy that they're going to rely on heavily in senior guard Will Hill. Will, there you see a picture of him in a game against Ohio Christian last year. Will, part of the 10-player preseason all-conference team, and a guy, kind of like we mentioned with Jada Carter with Coach Smalley, a guy that Coach French is going to rely on heavily. He
is, and he's a young man that you kind of look at him and you go, how we can stop him, because he's kind of small framed, he's not real big, but he just, he's quick, he's got a shot that he gets off very quickly, and he plays havoc on defenses, definitely does. And
Rio Grande, the men's team that is, will get their season underway on the 3rd of November. They'll take on a pretty good team in Indiana Wesleyan, out at Indiana Wesleyan's tournament. They'll be at the Mount Vernon tournament the following weekend, and then finally get to play a home game in the Bevo Francis tournament, which is scheduled for the 17th and 18th.
Randy, at Indiana Wesleyan is, if I'm not mistaken, I think is going to be played on ESPN3. I think that game is going to be played on ESPN3. I think
you are right. They have a pretty nice setup out there at IWU,
right.
And you can find a video of that game at ESPN3.com. We move on now to the fall sports as we try to get a recap of where they all stand at the moment. Men's soccer ranked number 3 in the country, 12-1-1, and at home for the final 2 games of the regular season this weekend. Cincinnati Christian here on Thursday night, and Asbury on Saturday night. And Jeff, they're 1 win away from securing a first-round bye in the conference tournament, and Scott Morrissey's team just keeps rolling along.
Well, they are, and you know, since the last time we were here, they had a little bit of a stumble with when they tied IU East,
Yep.
and probably something that Coach Morrissey would say should not have happened. But you know, IU East came in and played hard, and I don't think, honestly, that our guys played to their level. And you know, it may have been a good awakening for them, because they immediately after that, I think the next game was they played West Virginia Tech, which they win by 4. Got Lindsey Wilson in that mix too, and so they have done a good job since that time of coming away. Even the last win up in Point Park, always hard on the road. It doesn't matter who you're playing to win in overtime with the golden goal in overtime. So. You know, that was probably a good thing to happen to them going into the tournament play.
One of the guys who's been playing very well of late is Harry Riley. There you see a shot of him. And you mentioned that West Virginia Tech game. Harry, a transfer from West Virginia Tech, and had, I think, 2 goals and an assist, or vice versa, a goal and 2 assists. Right. He was a big part of the win over West Virginia Tech, and has been a big part of their success all season long.
I talked to Harry, golly, back in the 1st of August, and I was telling him he has changed his body since he got here the first time at Rio Grande. I mean, he's completely changed. He's just made himself a better athlete, and it's definitely now shows on the playing surface. And soccer is such a fitness game, and this time of the year, people are getting injured, and they're just those little nagging things and getting tired. And if you're in top physical condition, you're going to stand out, and that's what's happening with him.
We'll try to quickly work our way through the other sports. Women's soccer 7-7-1 as they enter this weekend against Cincinnati Christian and Asbury as well. There you see a shot from their game up at Point Park last Sunday, and a disappointing loss in the fact they led that game 2-0 at halftime, fell 3-2. They had just 2 days before suffered an upset loss at the hands of Carlow University, and now, rather than themselves being in position to have a first-round bye, they may very well have to play come quarterfinal round in the River States Conference Tournament.
Right, and I know that Coach Daniel's pretty not upset, I guess, just frustrated of how the weekend came through. But you know, he knows that they're young too. You know, they've got a lot of young people, and you know, they're going through some things that. Hopefully they can battle through that and win these last 2, and I guess last 3, and come out. I guess they can finish as high as 2nd place, can't they? Where we can get a first-round bye and then host from there.
Got to get the job done on the pitch first.
That's correct.
Volleyball, the season-long struggle continues. They fell at Indiana East last night to go now to 4-25 on the season. They are 1-12. In the River States Conference, and yet, Jeff, amazingly, they are not mathematically eliminated from the postseason.
I know you talked with me about that this morning, and it's hard to imagine that. I think we have to win all 3 matches out, and we have to have some other teams have got to lose in order for us to have that opportunity. It's been a long year for them. They've had some struggles. They've had some injuries, had some people who didn't return late in the year. I know that Coach Donaldson, in visiting with her, is out on the recruiting trail. Have already had a number of commitments for next year, and you know, combining those commitments with the people we've got returning, I think we're going to hopefully have be able to have a bounce back year next year.
Cross country, coming off of a good, solid performance in their own Red Storm Classic last weekend. Muhammad Farah leading the men to the championship. Lucy Williams did the same on the women's side, and now they look ahead to November the 4th. They run at Asbury in the River States Conference Championship, and trying to keep all their momentum going.
And I was talking with Coach Willie about that. We haven't run there before at the Asbury course, but they're arriving the day before and going to be able to walk and have a practice, as you would call, on the course. And so, we've talked about this before. Coach Willie is. His expertise is cross country. He knows how to get people to peak, and it's the whole point of it is to get those kids to listen and follow what he's doing, and he feels like that they've got a shot, and that's what you got to believe going into that conference tournament.
Golf getting its feet wet. They have completed their fall schedule, finished it up. There you see a shot of Logan Sheets. He was probably the most consistent golfer for the Red Storm in the fall. They'll now have a break and then get back at it in the spring, and I think probably that very short but 3-match fall schedule probably opened the eyes to not only the golfers but the head coach.
Well, yeah, and it was, and Logan Sheets is the only player that's ever had any kind of competition at the collegiate level, and all of these guys have played and at a high level, high school wise. Many of them have played in the state tournament, but it's just different. It's just a different realm, because now you're playing in a college realm where everybody has played in the state tournament, and it's just you've got the best off every team coming together, as we do in many of our sports at the collegiate level. So the idea that they every weekend they improved, and they took away from these penalty strokes and got those out of the way, and he feels really good. He's got a good setup for the winter time. He's got an indoor hitting facility for the winter time, and so he feels very good about their possibilities coming in to compete in the spring.
I want to also quickly touch on bowling. Men's bowling probably had its best showing of the year thus far. This past weekend, finishing 13 out of 43 teams. Austin Cook there, the young man you see pictured, he was second among 291 bowlers in the Western Shootout out there in Indianapolis. And they have, I guess, kind of like golf, they've struggled a little bit, particularly more struggle on the women's side than more so on the men. But getting their feet wet and getting better and better with each and every passing match.
Right, and there's a picture of a couple women's bowlers, but the same thing goes here. This is the first time that they've competed, collegiately. So it's that's a big part of trying to, just like you said, get your feet wet and just get going, get rolling. No pun intended there.
Yeah. Before we go, the Rio Grande family lost a very meaningful person just last week in the passing of legendary head coach Knute Oliver. He, of course, was the head coach of the Rio Grande men's basketball teams that featured Bevo Francis. Jeff, I know you were somebody that got to know Coach Oliver over the years, and he had been in ill health for a while, but sad to see him go.
He was, and had a very nice ceremony for him there in Springfield. I think there were 4 members of the team that came back that was there, and there's a picture of them. Don Van Alec on the left, Wayne Wiseman in the middle, Dick Barr there second, and then Gene Brushart. Thank you. I just lost Gene's name there. All were there at the visitation, and family were there. Rio Grande was represented very well. And Knute was such a big part. You realize that he was only coached here 2 years. Correct. And the impact that he had, not only on Rio Grande, but the game of college basketball was, will go down forever and ever. And that's part of what we are doing with the Bevo Francis tournament. We want to keep this legend going. And we'll talk more about that at our next, at the end of November. And so it's, the family was really good. It was hard losing him. He had been ill, been in the hospital for a few days, and I guess he's 92 years old. He'll be 93 would have been 93 on December 25th. Some neat people there. I saw a guy that played high school basketball with him there in Byesville, Ohio. He was 94 years old.
Inside our final minute, we also lost James Marshall, and I know you're getting ready this weekend to have a Veterans Night again, and again in honor of him.
Right, and we have the Jim Marshall Veteran of the Year Award. We're having the dinner this Saturday, October 28th, in our cafeteria for all veterans. We're recognizing all veterans. Jim received the award last year, was able to come to a basketball game and receive that award, and it's very nice that the university has taken this on for a very important person.
We are out of time for this October edition of Eye on the Storm. We'll join you again next month. For Coach Smalley, for Jeff Lanham, Randy Payton saying so long for Eye on the Storm.